there. But overall, I think I'll tell you what, man, Darius Cooper, oof, what a practice. What
Yeah,
a
read a
freaking
lot about
practice.
him today, John.
At some point, you get it's really hard to overcome the undrafted stigma. And Nick Sirianni points to I always point to Adam Thielen. At some point, you just got to say this guy can freaking play.
Right.
And he's out there against Riq Woolen, putting Riq Woolen in a blender, like one of the most talented cornerbacks in football. Just generated huge separation on an out route. And then he did a stop and go on him and completely left him in the dust. At some point, he's out there taking first team reps, taking set. He must have caught 6, 7 balls in this practice. Jalen trusts him. We're all worried about Mekhi Lemon and Hollywood Brown and even Elijah Moore. There might be something right under your nose. Because, and I put Devontae aside, but the best wide receiver in this camp, besides Devontae Smith, has been Darius Cooper. Why can't he be? Because he's undrafted? They miss sometimes.
Seems like the Darius Cooper hype is getting more and more real, John. I remember a year ago, and I'm not knocking you for it, all right? And I think it was fair at the time. But when fans got excited about Darius Cooper, you kind of had to temper it like, all right, guys, there's always somebody, you know what I mean? There's always somebody.
Well,
there's a lot of receivers in front of him, all these different things. Feels like this dude
there's a big
arrived.
difference. There's a big difference from doing against third team corners.
Right.
And Quinyon Mitchell and Riq Woolen. So that's the part I think a lot of people don't know. When you have third teamers making, you're like, okay, that's nice. They're good depth pieces,
right.
Amongst the best group. But, there's a big step up when you're going from, the third teamers now are Keely Ringo, which is actually pretty good, but and guys like Tariq Castro Fields, although he's had a pretty good camp and got some second team reps because Jonathan Jones got hurt. But there's a big difference between that and Quinyon Mitchell and Riq Woolen. And now he's getting first team reps and he's doing the same thing. And actually he's doing more because he didn't play like this last year. It was just
he had the big preseason game, right? A couple preseason games last year, where he dominated.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where half of the battle in the NFL is opportunity. I talk about it all the time. You can't prove anything without an opportunity, and that's the silver lining. Look, if Mekhi Lemon's healthy, he doesn't have this opportunity. He doesn't. So that's the silver lining to somebody missing all those practices. Somebody's got to step in and take those reps. And we'll see if the Eagles believe it or not. They'll show.
How much is the Jalen Hurts factor, part of it, though? Because Jalen has had a history of wanting a rapport, wanting to trust, wanting to have a relationship with his receivers. I think you even saw that in a way in a microcosm with A.J. Brown, where first couple years, everything's fine and dandy, 1,500 yards. Now, A.J. was obviously still got a lot of yards, but, it feels as though Jalen's always wanted that, and it does feel like he's starting to build that with Darius Cooper as opposed to Mekhi Lemon, who he can't build it with when he's on the bench. How much will that come into play, Joe?
Yeah, I don't think much. It's going to be interesting because it's really hard to go away from your first round pick. Like I always talk, the meritocracy talk is bullshit. It's like if it's a meritocracy, best players play. But that's not the reality of the NFL. And Mekhi's going to be out there when he's healthy. It's the way it is. I mean, now
I
As
mean, you
Jalen
always say that
Ra-
when it comes time to win a football game, though,
as
I mean, if
Jalen
they
Rager
feel as
proved.
though he doesn't have, yeah, right.
Well,
How long
but
they wait on
I
Rager?
think about how many chances Jalen Rager got before they got to that
I don't know.
point.
They drafted Devontae the following year, didn't they?
Well,
And the year 2020. I mean, let's be real. They didn't
well,
really have
I'm
a
not
slate of
talking.
receivers.
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the number one receiver, but a guy who was in the mix. How many opportunities did he get?
Yeah, I guess.
You're talking. You're basically 11 personnel is your core personnel group. So 3 receivers are on the field. How many chances did Jalen Rager get to be one of those 3 receivers? Quite a few until they traded him, gave up after year 2. So, it's still going to be 2 years. And by no means do I think Mekhi Lemon is going to be a failure. So,
I just go back to that thing you always say, like, everybody talks about things, but then when it comes time to win a game, like, I wonder if Darius Cooper and Jalen are building enough of a connection right now where when it comes time to win a ball game, if Mekhi Lemon's not doing anything on the field, dude, we need to get a first down. Get Darius Cooper on the field. I don't know. Does that not come? You don't see that coming at all this year?
No.
Would that be stupid by the Birds? Would that be a mistake?
It's sort of part of the modern NFL. Like, they don't, if it's not abundant by now, they don't listen to Jalen. They do what they want to do. It's his job to
adapt to what they do.
Yeah. He wanted Scott Leffler here. Scott Leffler here? No.
Maybe he wanted AJ gone, and AJ's gone. I don't know if that was him or not, but
no, that wasn't him. But and I'm not picking on the Eagles coaching. That's like all these new offensive-minded coaching staffs. They want to be controlling the joystick.
Yeah, see, I mean, I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think what you're explaining is the proper way to explain it to people. I'm going to say my opinion is it's stupid. I mean, how can you create a new offense for a quarterback, in a new year with a new environment?
In mind, they wouldn't have created this offense.
I agree. But now you're going to, not only are you going to create it and make it tough for him, but then you're just not going to give him the guys on the field that he seems to have the right chemistry with. I mean, and Darius Cooper seemingly can flat out play. I mean, you're telling me he's putting Riq Woolen in a blender. I think the guy's good enough to be on the field. Get him on the field. I mean, come on. And then if Jalen doesn't do good this year, everybody will jump, me included probably, to criticize Jalen Hurts. Yet the team didn't do a thing that, to put him in the best position to succeed.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And, also, I mean, Darius has to do it consistently. Today was his best practice. And, he's not going to get an opportunity to get it consistently because Mekhi's getting closer. So it'll take care of itself in that mode. Unfortunately, the NFL is what it is, and they traded for Dontavian Wicks, and Dontavian's had a good summer, so he's not the problem. You have Devontae Smith, you drafted Mekhi Lemon, you paid $5 million guaranteed for Hollywood Brown, and the fourth receiver's not that relevant anyway. I mean, the third receiver hasn't been relevant with Jalen Hurts. Presumably, they'll be more relevant in this offense, but we'll see. And then you get down to 4, and then Darius would be 5 right now. Not going to get the opportunity. So it's a fun summer storyline. But
damn, another fun summer storyline.
I don't see, barring injuries, of course, but
yeah.
And then if
what do you think has to be done for that to change, in your opinion?
Guys falling flat on their face, and I mean flat. I mean
as flat as flat gets.
I mean playing really poorly. I mean the first 3, maybe you can.
Hollywood's probably a little easier to. Yeah.
I mean, and obviously it's not going to happen with Devontae. Forget about that. And it's probably not going to happen with Wicks. And I don't think anybody's rooting for it to happen with Lemon, but it's a fun summer storyline, and that's where it'll end. But, you know, I as a bubble player, I didn't think he was going to make the team with Johnny Wilson coming back and even Elijah Moore playing well. He's been the best receiver in camp besides Devontae Smith.
I mean, Cooper was the 4th receiver on the team last year in terms of receptions. Outside of not including Goddard and Saquon. You think he's
yeah, last year, by the way, last year he wouldn't have made the team until Johnny got hurt. Wouldn't have made the team.
That's true. Now you're saying the way it's going to be. Does the McMullen? Do you have a different opinion than what it is? Because I understand what you're saying is like, guys, you can think all you want, it's not going to happen, and you're probably right. Does the McMullen opinion differ from what the way it's going to be is?
I'd find ways to get him out there, and see, you know, whether it's rotating and just see and say, all right, you know, like an NBA player, you give him 10 minutes. If he does well, give him 15, 20, 25. I can't look at this wide receiver group and say this is beyond reproach. But unfortunately, you know, nobody likes to talk about the business side of the NFL, and I get it, but it's realer than real can be.
Right.
You're not sitting a first-round pick who's never played. You know, he hasn't done anything bad.
Well, sometimes you say, why is there, you know, Jahad Campbell sat last year. It doesn't mean his career was over. It meant that at the time they had a better
proven player. For a proven player. And even I mean,
you disagreed with that, yeah. But Jahad's different. Jahad looked good. Lemon hasn't looked like that yet.
No, and I don't agree. I don't think they should have benched Jahad, but
I agree, but
because
again,
I think it's I think it should
good.
be. I think it should be a meritocracy, but it wasn't. Now in Vic's mind, it might have been a meritocracy because he likes N'Kobe, but it wasn't. Yeah, that's, you know, there's a wide berth between N'Kobe Dean, who's a really good player in his own right, and what's going on now. But yeah, I mean, they traded and they gave him a contract extension for Wicks. Again, Devontae's put off to the side. That's how it works. They're playing.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I get your point on Campbell, but it is the opposite of what you're saying will happen with Lemon. Now, I get the point about the proven player. That's obvious. N'Kobe was a proven player. Darius Cooper is not, but I don't know. I mean, they did put a first-round pick on the bench, you know?
After quite a bit of time and quite a bit of poor play.
Was it poor play? I thought you just said it wasn't.
Oh, I was talking about Rager. I thought you were back to
Rager. No. I was talking about Campbell.
Oh, Campbell. Well, no, that's a bad comp from the standpoint that N'Kobe Dean was a starter on
previous
best defense in the NFL, and he was the leader, and he was the green dot. You know, that's a bad comp. I mean, that guy.
I'm just saying, from a sense of a first-round pick did go to the bench.
Yeah, but that's a bad comp. You're talking about an undrafted guy. You know, you're so in that.
Well, wait a second though. Let's leave Cooper out of it for a second.
Well,
Lemon hasn't been you had him ranked what, 6th or 7th? But forget Cooper for a second. Whether it's Elijah Moore or Hollywood Brown or or Darius Cooper or Johnny Wilson. I mean, if they're playing better football than him, and they're giving your team a better chance to win.
Makai's not playing football. In this comp, Makai is Jihad Campbell. He's the first round pick. Darius Cooper's not Nakobe Dean. He's not proven. He's not, there's no.
Oh, that is Hollywood Brown. I mean, no.
Well, Hollywood Brown is more proven, but I'm not talking about the fourth receiver anyway. You could wiggle him past Hollywood Brown, but you're still not playing because you got the top three. You can you can wiggle him past Hollywood Brown. That's not insurmountable. It's unlikely, but it's not insurmountable. The other three,
I get what you're saying, but part of me,
the other three are insurmountable.
Jalen Hurts too, where it's like, it just feels like at every possible turn they're trying to make it harder on Jalen Hurts. It's like, dude, the guy's got some rhythm with a receiver. Let him go out there and hoop with him. Let him go out there and play ball with him. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he's got.
I haven't heard much connection between Hurts and Lemon yet this summer.
Well, he hasn't practiced. I mean,
that's part of it, though. Hurts likes to have a little bit of connection with his receiver, which I'm all right with. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, you're not sitting the first round pick.
All right.